Welcome to Inside the Firm, a podcast dedicated to small business owners and hosted by entrepreneurs, Alex Gore and Lance Cayko. Each week, they take you on their journey of how to start, run, and grow a business by bringing you inside their architecture and real estate development firm. Get a behind-the-scenes tour of how these business leaders manage their clients and foster company culture while creating new and innovative projects. And now your hosts, Alex Gore and Lance Cayko.
3, 2, 1, here we go. We're live. It's that fast. We got to move quickly, Al Gore.
Got to pick up kids.
Things are happening. How are you today? We just got some exciting breaking news. What is the exciting breaking news? Good, bad?
That the city is going to, let me read it. It's right here.
Here he goes. He's going to read it. Mr. Dyslexic
The city
himself
will be recommending to the Planning and Zoning Commission that the project be conditionally approved on the condition that all remaining staff edits are made to the plan. Boom! That's our development project. Planning and zoning are going to recommend that it be approved. So
you know what that means?
Time to spend more money!
So now Lance gets to tell his mechanical, electrical, and plumbing engineer,
get on it.
On Monday, let's do it. So we're ready to rock. We're ready to rock. And over on Saturday, I'm going to finish the last set of red lines I have for all of, like, the detailing, waterproofing stuff. The structural's already done. All the architecture stuff was already done. We have a really good working set together. So I think at the same time that we go back in for planning and zoning, we're going back in for building permit. And
going in, not back.
Sorry. We are going in for a building permit submittal. So it is, and then here we go. We are starting to see the daylight.
Yeah, daylight is coming, which means then we get to start work on the project. Physical labor, awesome. I was in Denver for a meeting, so we're going through site plan review. We just had our first, it's called concept meeting, and then it said, okay, make sure you get one round of comments from site plan review before you submit for your building permit. And I'm like, perfect, that's what I want to do. I'm glad you brought that up and said it to everyone. I just know Longmont, that's foreign to them, because building review will probably be like, oh, do you have your site plan review done yet? No, just look at it, you idiots. Because remember we talked to the city council and they were saying, yeah, no, we don't do, consecutive reviews.
Yeah.
Like everyone else does.
Everybody else does, and this is one of the things we want. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Good news. That's good news, yeah. And I hear you have some shout-outs, sir.
Josh Kunkel. I hope I'm saying that right.
I don't know how else you could say it because it's spelled Kunkel, and I just pulled it off of Facebook.
Look at that. So he started a firm with probably a bunch of people that he knew. It's called Method Architecture. No. Let's
I've verified everything today. I assure you.
It's Method Architecture. Where is it in? What city?
Out of Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Yes, it is. So anyways, he's in the Entree Architect community on Facebook. If you're not in it, get in it. The reason why is because you can ask everything from extremely complex code questions to ones that you might think that you're dumb because you don't know this code question.
Or to the questions I asked today.
Right, but before I go there, code questions are difficult, everyone, because they're circular. It's like reference this, how people interpret it is different. So everything from very practical advice to, hey, I'm starting a firm, and it's because of Entree Architect, his group, his forums, and he gave a shout out to this podcast. So we're just sharing the love back. And then you said, what did you ask?
What do you mean, what did I ask? Today I asked if anybody has access, if they'd be willing to share examples of their pro formas, if they've done any kind of development projects. And they tried to get me into another group. I'm in so many dang Facebook groups. I was like, I can't do it. So then the guys ended up pointing me to this. I would have to pull it up real quick, and I don't have time. But this website with this other developer, and they had 10 example pro formas on there. So I just downloaded them all. You're going to love it. Every time I was downloading one, I was like, wow, I was going to love this. You're going to love this. Here's an example. So we have those examples to work off of. And then here's the other thing is a couple of the banks and our developer buddies have helped us out and given us their examples of pro formas. But what's interesting about the bank is the banks that have said, hey, here's generally what we're looking at and stuff like that is that I think if you can curtail what you're doing to what they're looking for, and they're just giving us general stuff. That's ideal.
Well, it's like pitching them a softball.
There you go.
It's taking away all the barriers for people to say no. It's doing their job for them, which we've repeatedly said. If you want anything, if you want to get on a TV show, you got to do their job for you.
If you want to get in the paper,
you got to do their job. You got to write the article.
If you want to be on the podcast, you got to do it.
You got to do your own. You got to just make up that podcast, or you could send us a snippet and we might play it. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's awesome. So again, congratulations to Josh Kunkel. So excited for you, buddy. I hope you guys crush it. I know you'll crush it. You're a smart guy. I read your posts and get that sense from you on the Facebook. So more power to you. Best of luck. It's just one of the most exciting. It's literally one, besides having kids and raising a family, one of the most exciting things you can do in life is just be an entrepreneur. So go get it.
Exactly. So next, what we're going to do now is talk about kind of a recap. And the recap is, since Josh is starting his firm, what is some advice that you can either take or not take? What's actually worked for us? What hasn't worked for us? And just thoughts on that. And just because we've also did the 5% Friday, and that was last week, so go listen to that. And it's basically where we improved the firm. Everyone brought together ideas and all that. So even if you're not starting a firm, it's stuff that you might be able to implement into your firm or any project that you're doing. So you want to kick us off? Do you have ideas?
Well, number one, you got to eat. And in order to eat, you need some work, right?
No.
So there's a million different ways for you to get work. You can network. You can glad hand. You can join the Chamber of Commerce. That has sort of worked for us before. You can put out ads. You could use Craigslist. You could use Thumbtack. You could use Google AdWords. But I think in order to do any of those things, you need a platform, right? The platform is probably the foundation of it all. So get yourself a website. Get yourself the traditional business cards. And get yourself
on House, Thumbtack, Facebook, not Instagram, in LinkedIn. That's the other one I'm thinking about. Those are the main ones I'd say right away.
And then obviously a website. And for that one, you could use there's a bunch of different kinds of website designers that you can use. We use Weebly generally. Then there's Wix, which has turned itself around pretty well. And then there's Squaresoft. Squarespace. I'm sorry, Squarespace. Squaresoft isn't that the one where the
Square
card
is just pay.
That's where you can pay. Yeah.
Yep.
But I think you got to have the website, right? And then you can branch from there. So, as many of those platforms as you can do. The ones that we wouldn't recommend that we have tried over several times are, I wouldn't use Yelp. House, I don't think you need to pay for it.
No.
Even though just last week, 2 weeks ago, we got a really interesting inquiry from maybe we're going to do a house in Qatar. There's another one where there's a client that's going to move down here from Chicago and they're buying a piece of land. So, but we paid through the nose for that for one whole year, and we haven't technically got a commission from it yet. We've got some actually pretty good leads right at the end, but no commission. So I wouldn't recommend paying for that. At all.
And then so let's say you got to get work, and maybe you don't even start your firm until you start to get work. But how do you start a firm legally? And it's not as hard as you think. One is you need to legally register your business, and you do that through your DORA, DORA.
Basically, Secretary of State in your state,
and
right?
It is Secretary of State. It's not DORA, is it?
Not DORA.
DORA does a bunch of other stuff.
DORA is the Department of Regulatory Agencies. So what that is that's who says yes, you can have an architecture license, Lance.
Yep.
No, you can't have one, Al.
Yeah.
Until after Lance says yes.
But they said I could. But Secretary of State, what is it? $15 to register?
So we did it in an interesting way. So first, I started the firm, and I just did an LLC, and then we switched to an S corp, and you can kind of switch once.
Yep.
And for us, the S corp was, we're going to take dividends. So the tax brackets became different, and that's what pushed us over. We're not giving legal advice here. I'm just saying, don't feel like if you do start the simple LLC as a sole proprietor, you can't switch to the S corp later if you get a partner, or if you start getting bigger and you start talking about taking dividends instead of just salary.
And here's the next step, and it can progress in that step. So let's say Lance started the firm, right, which he did. And it's just Lance doing LLC, and I think it was all just your own bank account. And then when I came in 4 months later, whatever it was.
Literally 3 or 4 months later.
It was a time to rethink about it. So it was, and some of this came from my mom. So essentially, you set up through the Department of
Regulatory agencies.
No.
Secretary of State.
Yep. Then set up a bank account, a separate bank account.
A corporate banking account.
Yep. I would almost suggest a credit union right now. You're a local bank
I'm with you. And here's the credit union. I think they're going to be more flexible. They don't have. Think about like you're reducing the amount of bureaucracy you have to deal with in a bank. If you just go to a local branch, they're going to be more flexible. They can do more things for you. They'd be more creative, especially if you start thinking about how you're going to expand. Maybe you're doing beyond architecture like us development.
So we set up a bank account, and then you need to pay yourself the right way. And this is going to matter down the line. So how you do that is that you need to have regular payments, not just taking money in whenever, not just putting money in your own bank account. Even if you're a sole proprietor, like Lance starting, but he didn't have this podcast to listen to. Now, if I was talking to him or if he was talking to himself, he would set up a separate bank account, right? And then he'd pay himself a regular salary because that's what they're going to look at when you ever want to loan.
You literally need to become a W-2.
Yep.
That's what you're looking for. Fill out your W-4 and get your W-2.
And in the beginning, I was doing the paperwork and managing that stuff. And then quickly, within like 2 months, I was like, this is dumb. There's a company. It's called ADP. You can look at their competitors. We don't care.
Exactly. Thank you. There are competitors.
Yep. We haven't looked, so I'm not over-endorsing ADP. They've just been so simple and not high fees that there's no reason for us to change.
Yeah,
so that is an endorsement from me personally. Legally, you check out whatever you want to do.
Yes.
So what they do is you say, okay, how much you want to pay yourself, and they will pay state, local, unemployment, and
corporate
taxes, all that stuff. So then it just automatically happens. They'll send you statements at the end and all that. And then
they're even helping us with healthcare now, right?
Yeah, now they're doing the healthcare, and it's something like $5 a person to manage it.
Sweet.
And I'm not managing that
We're
anymore.
not managing that, nope.
And then, so bank account, a payment system, and then obviously Lance already talked about getting to work and all that stuff. And then later you can hire an accountant or a bookkeeper because we did the taxes the first times. The first couple of years I'd get everything ready. I'm trying to think of legally what else you need to do. Those are the first couple. Insurance.
Yeah.
General liability insurance.
Get a general liability. If you're starting out as an unlicensed architect, which you can do that, you just have to check the legal ramifications of what you can do within your state. Typically, like in Colorado, you can do houses and you can do up to so many square feet of like industrial stuff. So make sure you're in legal bounds there. And
you might be surprised at what you can do. Like in Iowa, you can do multifamilies. Yeah. Like they don't care. Iowa does not care. Yeah. North Dakota, I don't even know if there's laws.
There's no laws up there.
I'm making that up, but you get what I'm saying. North Dakota,
Texas, you can do whatever. No, just kidding. And so general liability, I think, is a bare minimum for sure. And then obviously you need to get some E&O insurance. And here's where I think insurance is where you can start doing maybe some of your
errors and emissions.
Errors and emissions, yeah.
Just to let people know.
You can start doing some basic entry-level sort of work swapping. So I think if you can line yourself up with so you're gonna have to get insurance. So if you can line yourself up with an insurance agent who's maybe also dabbles in real estate or something like that, and you can start to bridge these little networks. Like they might not be able to refer you to a client right away, but maybe eventually they'll be refer you to a client, or like something like that. Which kind of leads me to like, okay, then once you have all that established, just basic networking I think is a big one. And here's what I would recommend is, if you're doing residential stuff, right away, if you can just get in with some realtors. A lot of times, like my wife works for Coldwell Banker, and they have speakers just come in, and they buy them lunch and stuff like that, and they do kind of a lunch and learn. And then you just talk about what you do. So if you're okay with kind of starting from scratch, you might be talking to these 20 realtors, but how many times do they sell a house and instantly their clients are like, yeah, we're going to run a remodel this.
Yep.
We need to take down like a load-bearing wall and rearrange, the kitchen a little bit, stuff like that. Boom! I think it's a good segue right into that kind of work. So, what about contracts? Right? How about landing the work? Where do you think you start there? How do you do it? We did it in a very curious way, but
you can go listen to the first podcast. I
think it's number 1.
Yeah. So I'd go listen to that. But basically, you know what? here you go.
What would you do now? This is kind of like a retrospect one, like if you had to do it over.
Well, this is where I was going to go into next, because you talked about getting work, starting up the firm legally, and now how to think about your firm philosophically. And I think you need to reduce your feedback loop. We started off with this. We tell everyone when they come in, there's an onboarding process. I have a little sheet, and we go, we want you to be simple yet profound. Right? So you need to shorten your feedback loop. So here are the notes that I type for that. Is time. You need to time yourself. Right? Because then you know if you're meeting your budgets when you bid something out.
And if you listen to the Entre Architect podcast, Mark will recommend FreshBooks, because I'm pretty sure they also have a timer. If you use QuickBooks Online, which is a competitor, they also have a timer. Yep. But the one that we really like and our guys like is Toggle.
Yep. So that's number one. Number two, if you are in Revit, you should be in Revit if you're not in Revit.
If you're not in Revit, ArchiCAD doesn't sound that bad.
Nope. Yeah, I don't know.
It's a competitor, but for us, it's Revit. But what I'm getting at is, like, you need to be in some kind of building information modeling software.
Yes.
Something where you're actually physically / virtually building it, testing your design in as much as you can in the computer before it gets built, and set up a system for it.
And set up a system. Model like it's going to get built. All this, we've said it multiple times. We have training and free tutorials, and we will shamelessly plug, because we've only heard really, really good feedback. Honestly, if it was a shitty product, I would not let you know. I'd be embarrassed. I'm embarrassed to sell if it's not good. So it's revitfurniture.com, and it's literally the Revit template system. Because if you model like it gets built, your people understand construction better. So when they go out into the field, everything makes sense, and they can shorten that feedback loop. So all these are related to shorten that feedback loop. Also, get out there on the site, right? So that you can see and visualize and know if you're modeling well. But the other thing to shorten that feedback loop is, what if I'm just one guy? What if I don't have the answers? What if I have a questions or something like that? Entre Architect Facebook group. You just ask questions.
All day.
You know what I mean? Like,
constantly.
That was what was maybe scaring me back in the day, was what do I do when I have a question or I don't know the answer? One, we've told people, like, just say, I'll get back to you. And if you don't have another person in your firm, the forum of Entre Architect is your forum to ask questions.
Another way I think of reducing your feedback loop and how this pays off for you is because I just landed a client this week, and we were in the meeting, and they go, we picked you because you were so quick. Yeah, it took other architects weeks to get back to us, and you were just every single time, even within like a minute or two of an email, you were writing back to us. Some days it was a day, it wasn't beyond that. And I was checking in with them several times. They were like, we could just tell you wanted the project, and we also liked your personality and all that other stuff. Yeah. So shorten your feedback loop with
the clients.
With the clients, when inquiries come in, make sure you're on top of it. Make sure you make them know and feel like you're taking care of them. Try always, even if there's any way you can give them an update.
So another thing you can do too, I think, I don't know, if someone would listen to this and put notes together, like, that would be extremely helpful. I will post them on our website,
insidetheirpodcast.com.
Yep. Because I feel like there's 3 sections here, and there's some good advice. So if anyone wants to take that on themselves, I'd appreciate it. You can email me.
Looking at you, Nick.
Yeah, right. AKG at f9productions.com.
We'll send you a free book.
Yeah. We do.
Signed by Josh. Sorry.
We have fun here. We have fun. We're a fun group. We're fun. The other thing is, okay, let's go back to getting work. Another way is just introduce yourself. So I want, semi-selfishly, a pool within walking distance, a public pool, right?
So what he means is he wants a pool in his neighborhood because he grew up with a pool in his backyard, so now he lives in America, so he thinks he needs a pool in his neighborhood. So what did you do, Al?
Well, and my parents, they said when they were like 6, their whole summer was just a pool pass. Like, their parents didn't even watch them. They just go to the pool all summer. So it sounds amazing. So the Parks and Rec department of like this Tri-City area basically is in charge of it. So I just emailed them and offered our services to do a free concept, right? They're all stoked about it. I'm stoked about it. I'm going to do a free concept. I'm not even thinking that we're going to get the commission because we don't design pools or anything like that. But again, You do something for someone else, all of a sudden, hey, one of the board members, oh, my friend needs an architect or something like that. You're getting your name out there. And this is what I'm saying is that you can start pairing self-interest, which I don't think is too bad, with giving.
There's nothing bad about it, because if you're a designer, you're already passionate about your design. So why wouldn't you use your passions to your advantage?
And then also think about leverage, right? What kind of leverage and what kind of impact you can have by that leverage. So I could scream about whatever, but like I'm not like Lance. I don't have a big social media presence. I have a garage couch that I like.
That's it. That's it.
What am I? But I am, in my perspective, really good at making a presentation and convincing people.
And
to do stuff.
and Alex is good at seeing when trends are right on the horizon, and then capitalizing on that, like with the Amazon headquarters stuff that we did, with the tiny house stuff that we did, with the doomsday dwelling stuff that we did. So that's the other thing too, is however you can recognize even local to national trends and capitalize on that. We just can't recommend that enough. Gosh, architects have the ability to just visualize everything for other people, and you don't ever lose track of your power that you have. It's amazing.
Yep. Because a lot of people have a lot of ideas. And I was even talking to a potential client, and they're like, what do we do this? What do we do this? And I was telling the real estate agent later, once they see a drawing, they can make decisions. Because people are going back and forth and stuff. I was like, it all comes down to being visual. So that's what I'm offering with the leverage with my skill is, hey, here's now a picture and some labels. Now people can say, oh, how much is that going to cost? Oh, we'll get a contractor to bid on it, stuff like that, and start moving the ball forward. And then you can be in the loop there. So I think that's all I have for kind of, if you're starting a firm, or maybe you want to revisit, maybe you don't have all of your web pages set up. Maybe you don't have a clear concept of, I need to shorten the feedback loop. Or you should have, if you have a firm, they should have all the legal stuff set up, or else, who knows? You guys are in trouble. But
the last thing I would say, and this relates to, what is the book that I'm supposed to read? Do you remember?
Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink.
Not that book. The one that the author that Mark had on.
Yeah.
Last week.
Pitch without sell. No. Sell without pitching.
Something like that.
Win without.
Yeah. If you go listen to one of the last Entree Architects, Mark had this awesome author on, and Alex will find it. But here's the sentiment. It doesn't matter. We'll find that, and then you'll know. So there's two ways to think about the clientele or how you're setting up your business, as far as like, okay, what kind of work are you going after? So you can either go into a highly specialized area, like let's say you only do McDonald's. Your thing is just McDonald's. That's what you do all day long, over and over again. But you love it because you get to do all these different cool McDonald's for some reason, right?
I was just in a Burger King.
You're gonna get you could do the first one in North Korea. How about that? Good for you.
Yeah.
And then the other way to think about it is, kind of like basically how Alex and I did this was, we said, no, we want like 10 tentacles. We want to do townhouses, single-family homes. We want to do additions. We want to build tiny houses. We want to do an architecture development. We want to do Bitcoin, exactly. We want to do BIM. We want to sell pieces
our
of stuff.
Our system that we work so hard for.
We want to teach plus sell our template there.
Yeah. Tiny houses. Did you even mention that?
Yes, I did mention tiny houses. But here's the issue is, okay, so if you do something highly specialized, the thought process is, because you're so highly specialized, you're going to be more highly sought after. Therefore, you can command higher fees. If you're doing a bigger spread of stuff, it spreads you out, and you might not be in as high demand for a specific category. So you have to. I'm not going to recommend either one. We've already told you what we do, and it's worked for us.
Both approaches are valid.
But I do think there's a split there that is okay. You need to be okay with that split. I'm not sure there's even an in between, because if there's there is no in between, right? You're either doing a bunch of stuff, or you're doing like I said, McDonald's, flagships.
There's probably a gradient between.
Yeah, gradient. How about that as a gradient?
There's a gradient between all of them. But just know too, and though I think the book is called Win Without Pitching.
There you go.
And I think for a certain segment, it's great advice, and it will actually help out a lot of people. And I think you should look at it. I think you should think that way. I think if you do that way, that's totally fine. But the other side of that is that I don't want people to be frustrated if they're not doing it that way. Because here's the problem. Let's say you're just starting out and you really specialize, right? but you want to charge a high price. If you're just specializing, you honestly, let's say you're just specializing in townhomes or something, and you're just starting out. We do a large amount. You're not going to know more than someone than us. So you can't charge a high price right away. So you probably won't get those clients because guess what? You'll be talking to developers who know real estate, and when I pitch and say stuff, they're going to know that I know what I'm talking about, and you might not know what you're talking about. So just know it right away. You have to gain that knowledge to get that, right? That the high price. And here's the other thing. This is why I don't want to dissuade people and say that this is the only answer, is because you might be in a small enough market that there's not enough demand for someone that only does townhouses.
Sure. Exactly. Exactly.
Or
you might not
or custom houses, or
you might
whatever.
not be in the Denver metro. You might be on the western slope in Colorado where there's like a little town,
Yep.
and that's it.
Or you might be in a place that doesn't. There's places where you don't do custom houses. It's just builders. So
Minnesota.
Yep. So
Northern Minnesota.
Yeah. You're not. It's just not going to work out. And that's fine. That's fine because you can specialize in the process, and that's what we do, and that's what we talked about
Yes.
simplifying fundamentals, feedback loops, construction knowledge, blah blah blah. Alex keeps talking.
He doesn't shut up. And with that, here we are with Nick Reeds.
Yeah. Wait. Can I intro this?
You can intro this.
Thank you. So we have a new book, and I don't know how much he's going to.
Oh, that's right. We did finish the book. I'm sorry.
Yep. What's the new book?
Are we listening to Corb?
Corb.
Isn't it Corb?
Towards a New Architecture.
Towards a New Architecture, yeah.
Honestly, guys.
Le Corbusier.
So you've probably listened to this in college. I mean, not listened. You read it in college. If you're listening from a different profession, this is still going to be super helpful, cool advice, broaden your perspective. This book is epic, and I think you're going to see that throughout. So we're going to pick. I already have like all 16 ones picked out. So here we go with Nick Reeds.
Hello, best friends. I hope you all had a great week this week. A reading. A great epic has begun. There exists a new spirit. Industry, overwhelming us like a flood which rolls on towards its destined end, has furnished us with new tools adapted to this new epic, animated by the new spirit. Economic law unavoidably governs our acts and our thoughts. The problem of the house is the problem of the epic. The equilibrium of society today depends upon it. Architecture has for its first duty, in this period of renewal, that of bringing about revision of values, a revision of the constituent elements of the house. Mass production is based on analysis and experiment. Industry, on the grand scale, must occupy itself with building and establishing the elements of the house on a mass production basis. We must create the mass production spirit, the spirit of constructing mass production houses, the spirit of living in mass production houses, the spirit of conceiving mass production houses. If we eliminate from our hearts and minds all dead concepts in regard to the house and look at the question from a critical and objective point of view, we shall arrive at the house machine, the mass production house. Healthy, and morally so too, and beautiful in the same way that the working tools and instruments which accompany our existence are beautiful. Beautiful also with all the animation that the artist's sensibility can add to serve and pure functioning elements. Le Corbusier, Towards a New Architecture. Alexa, play Lose Yourself. Office Rap Friday. Toodles!
Nick, if you ever stop asking Alexa to do stuff at the end of your reads, you're fired from your free job.
Yeah.
I want all the Alexas to go off every time.
And just everyone just hates.
So that was super interesting because we are on the verge of maybe doing some of this kind of stuff with modern technology, right, Al?
Yeah. So what's so crazy about this is that Corbusier I did some research before this, and I think he was born in it was 1898 or something like that. So he was turning around 16 or around when the first car and the
Model T.
And he was basically coming to age when the car was being mass produced and the first plane was happening. So then he went through World War I, World War II, and all that. So just think of the shift of, you're 12 and then you see a plane for the first time. And then you start to go from horses to cars. So he's talking about houses going from just,
a guy laying brick to machines being involved, even just like excavators and cranes.
But I don't think that we are where he thought we would be. Because
I would think he'd be disappointed. I would think that it's people like him and Frank Lloyd Wright would be absolutely disappointed right now. Don't you think?
Yep. And the other key point that he talked about in here was that houses are a reflection of the age or society or whatever he said. So there's a group in Denver that hates what's going on, right? And they just complain and stuff like that.
Any kind of development is it's their worst enemy.
They're just critics. Literally, honestly, it's a terrible way to live. It's fun to watch, but don't join in because critics don't count. Because literally these developments are happening and none of their criticism has any effect on it whatsoever.
Well, one thing that you said, I think you said, oh man, I wish I could find that, what you wrote the other day. It was brilliant. I can't remember what the heck you said.
You keep looking because I'll keep going.
Okay, keep talking.
And instead of just sitting there and whining and complaining, you got to look at the situation, right? So what's happening in Denver? And they don't know the situation because they just want to criticize and they don't want to look deeply. Is that a couple things are actually making this happen? One is, yes, there are some poor designs, and I will admit that that's totally fine. And what happened is that a lot of the baby boomers, the industry got shaken up in Denver in the recession. And a lot of people with a lot of the knowledge and the hookups, they left. So a lot of these are being designed by younger people that maybe don't have the design skill. Maybe they're in a flux period where they're trying something new, but then also the city regulations, right? So the city regulations and hoops. The developers don't want to pay more money for architecture, yet the city keeps adding on compliance things. So all of a sudden
and just drawing requirements and engineering and design requirements, yeah.
So maybe instead of 15% of your drawing time going towards compliance and dealing with the city, it's 35, 45%.
Yeah,
it's getting crazy. So you cannot refine your design even if you wanted to. Then things get cheapened down, and some of these things look ugly or not as good as they
Here's
want.
what you said.
Yep.
It's not the critic who counts, it's the one who creates.
There you go.
Boom.
Pretty sure it's Teddy, but I'll take credit for it.
Sure enough, Al.
So instead of looking at, they're just blaming, yelling at developers, and they're yelling at architects and stuff like that. Is, okay, what are the levers behind it that are making this happen? And can we go and fix those? Because obviously they just want more. They are literally going to want more design regulations and more reviews. So that's going to take the same fee or increase the fee, which would increase the price, and they're complaining about prices. And I don't know what that's like. Who makes good products? Apple.
Used to.
Yes, very true. Did the regulators regulate the quality of Apple products? No. Maybe that it doesn't hurt you. Maybe that it doesn't zap you. Samsung zapped you once.
Yeah.
But did they make it look that way? No. How about Tesla? Did they regulate the design of a Tesla car with the gull-wing doors and says it has to look cool like that? How about, did the government say, hey, we're going to have more regulations and we're going to make the space industry, better? Nope. Just some guy came and said, can we reuse these rockets? Because that's expensive.
And we just have a little bit of competition?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, anyways, to go on a positive note, there are things that we will talk about in the future that I think that architecture can start to reflect some of the technological advances that are happening.
Yeah, and what it comes down to is I think where we're at as a society is we're right on the verge of becoming more free again and sort of relieving ourselves from these regulations through technology. So it's not like we're gonna dodge regulations, it's just that we're just going to adapt to them in a better and a quick way and sort of regain some ground with the technology that's coming
Instant
up.
verification.
Exactly.
Instant proof. All this other stuff.
Exactly. And with that, we're going to have a lightning round of A.R.E. Jeopardy. And by lightning round, I mean like 2 or 3 minutes, and I got to run and go get my...
Here's the first question. What is tinted glass that absorbs a high percentage of solar radiation known as? A, tinted glass. Awesome, Lance. These are awesome. B, solar glass. C, what's that?
A Cintiq.
A Cintiq glass. D, mirror glass.
Actually, it's... It is actintic. Okay, so read them again now.
What is tinted glass that absorbs a high percentage of solar radiation known as? A, tinted glass. B, solar glass. C, actinic glass. D, mirror glass. Everyone needs to write fast answers. We gotta go. B, A, B. The answer is apparently
C. Actinic. Jeez, how do you say this? Actinic. Never heard of that glass. Very obscure question. Welcome to A.R.E. Jeopardy.
Yeah, I'm an architect.
Did anybody get it? Anybody get it?
No.
Okay. Next one, Al. What do you got?
What is the chemical reaction that combines cement and water to form concrete known as? A, hardening. B, hydration. C, solidification. D, concentration.
Concretion.
Okay, what is a chemical reaction that combines cement and water to form concrete known as? Hardation, hydration, solidification, concretion. Give you a hint. I think you made up some of these words.
Possibly.
B, C, C. It is B.
B. So it was just 1-0 so far?
Yep.
Okay. Third question. Number 3. What is the most common type of accelerating admixture used in concrete known as? A, self-retarding. B, air entrainment. C, superplasticizers. D, calcium chloride.
And for the audience, it was hydration. That's what B was last time.
Okay. Number 3. What is the most common type of accelerating admixture use in concrete known as? A, set retarding. B, air entrainment. C, superplasticizers. D, calcium chloride. What do we got? D, C, B. The answer is D. Now, Mark, none of these questions we went over before this in just working, okay? Just so you know. Number 4. The moisture content in which a soil starts to change from a plastic to a semi-liquid state is A, total limit. B, maximum wetness. C, liquid limit. D, zero limit. Number 4. The moisture content at which a soil starts to change from plastic to a semi-liquid state is known as A, total limit. B, maximum wetness. C, liquid limit. D, zero limit.
I'm guessing in my head right now.
C, D, C. The answer is C. Liquid limit.
All right.
Bam. That's that.
Gresh wins.
All right. I got a jet. So, Al, do you have any parting words of wisdom or shout outs?
I can wrap it out. Hey, please like us on the Facebook, the Twitter. Share this with a friend. Send us an email, a shout out, akg@f9productions.com. Please review us on the
iTunes.
podcast app, iTunes, all of that. And we appreciate you guys.
See you next week.